of Ohio, and they collided. The moral of this pithy story is this: things go wrong more often than they go right, because there are many more ways for things to go wrong than for them to go right. Yes, we're all aware of the reported armed confrontations between the OLF and the Abiy government. It took Abiy a few months and a considerable amount of begging and sometimes compromise, as well as appeasement of the elder Dawood Ibsa, head of the OLF, to avert significant disaster. The sacrifice so far have been lives and property, and if things get out of hand among our Oromo brethren, it could all unravel the teetering state. In addition to the intra-Oromo conflicts, the number of mass incidents in Ethiopia, which is a key measure of instability, has risen enormously, and this is a major concern. Finally, I'm always reminded that the elite in Ethiopia are great at screwing up things and squandering opportunities. May I remind you what could have happened had General Mengistu Nawai and his brother Girmame been successful in their attempt to usher a new dawn in Ethiopia back in the 1960s. May I remind you what could have happened had the emperor passed on the mantle to someone else rather than clinging to power as long as he did. May I remind you of what could have happened had Mengistu Haile Mariam and his colleagues taken a different route. May I remind you of what could have happened had the political elite not conspired in 1991 and 1993 to destroy Ethiopia with the aid of Articles 32, 39, and 46 of the TPLF Constitution. I don't think I need to prove to you that we are very good at screwing up opportunities. Given our tendency and penchant for missed opportunities, we could blow this one too. How would we do that? Horwath and Powell state that the elite are very successful at changing the conversation, sort of rigging the conversation. EPRDF committed an injustice on the Ethiopian people. We fought it. We fought it in the streets, the halls of politics. We fought it with our ideas, and we fought it with whatever we could afford. It is my view that now it is changing the narrative only to cover up the injustices it committed. We should not be complicit in this. This is the time to insist on real change. We should not ease up on the pressure. Yes, I admit that there is much to protect and hope for these days. Yet, it is also possible to view the changes just as shifting sand, shifting loyalties, and shifting histories. For these and other reasons, I maintain that Ethiopia is at crossroads, and that the original question is a subject on which nothing final can be known at this time. The crossroads. Where will this crossroads lead us to? Here are two markers to watch for. One road would lead to Ethiopia becoming a confirmed failed state, a state that cannot maintain a monopoly of the legitimate use of violence and minimize internal conflict. This failure manifests itself when a state can no longer deliver physical security, a productive economic environment, and a stable political system for its people. The second road would lead to Ethiopia becoming a strong and democratic country with a strong political philosophy, robust institutions and structures, a country with open and transparent governance systems, a strong central federal government without the use of violent power, a country where citizens are united as one people, a country with known as well as secure borders, and a country where the freedom of movement of its citizens to work and reside is guaranteed under the law, along with their safety and security to engage in their chosen economic activities. The juniper tree. So, what is it? What is your takeaway from listening to me today? First, I would like to reiterate that my standards for transition, our standards for transition, should be fundamentally different than those in the past. One of those standards ought to be that our politics has to evolve from an adaptive politics to one that is generative. This distinction is as much a moral question as it is a technical or a political issue. Adaptive politics is possible without vision and commands compliance and even compulsion sometimes. Whereas generative politics occurs when people are striving for some common vision and insist on commitment and will. It recognizes that the most powerful drive in a people is their pleasure in what they do and what they have acquired. Adaptive politics is essentially survivor politics. It repeats itself almost entirely in the same form following major disasters, disastrous episodes, such as mass starvation and epidemics. Remember 1972, 1984, 1991. As well as mass mobilization for wars and revolutions, 1974.
2 more minutes to wrap up.
To make matters worse, Ethiopian adaptive politics has always had an unstated purpose: income redistribution by means of expropriation, though this has had mixed results. Instead, we should yearn for a standard of generative politics, the capacity to create and to be part of a generative process of life and not of its destruction. The key to raising the standard of living in any country is to raise the productivity and not promoting ethnic competition. As Mr. Nye would say, we Ethiopians are mixed like a marble cake rather than neatly separated like a layered cake. When the government unleashes the magic of free markets, when the government provides political stability, national security, effective legal and criminal justice system, a stable monetary system, and essential public goods such as disease control and policy and police, people begin to become productive. When the right environment exists, people work hard, they work smart, and they innovate and create. As you know, countries that do not create the right environment drown in wars. They drown in corruption. They drown in illiteracy and ethnic conflict, such as Ethiopia. The result, worker productivity is poor and the standards of living remain unchanged or even decline. That is not a desirable form of transition for me. We have today in Ethiopia a condition of both war and peace. Ladies and gentlemen, I am sorry to say, we are in danger of becoming both suicidal as well as homicidal. There is something quite primitive about this. Don't get me wrong. We need adaptive politics, and it's important and necessary, but to register meaningful transition, meaningful change, and one that is sustained, translated into sustained progress, as well as to show that we have learned something from the past. Adaptive politics must be joined by generative politics. This is the politics that advances the human condition and enhances our capacity to recreate Ethiopia. The second takeaway has to do with the ability of the Ethiopian people for practical balance of coexistence and resilience. I believe that Ethiopians are like the juniper tree of western Colorado. I used to live there, where I used to live, and East Africa. They turn, twist, look dead, but parts of the tree continue to grow for hundreds, maybe even 1,000 years in the desert. The adaptation of the tree is amazing. So is the adaptation of Ethiopians to the different political circumstances, travails, government, and even terror. They do all this with hushed tone, just like the juniper tree. And so, as I conclude, in a world of fluidity and heightened uncertainty today, I still hold very big hope that we would somehow redeem ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you both for your informative and interesting presentation. And ladies and gentlemen, at this point, we are going to open up for question and answers. And here, we are going to allocate for both of them 30 minutes maximum. And now, you can start posing your questions. And could you be lined up on both sides of the podium? And the first session will accept 4 questions. And when you do that, please don't forget to mention your name and to whom you are directing the question. And after 4 questions, we'll stop and then we come back again. Okay, now, any questions? I think somebody lined up already.
Right here.
I see you. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the wonderful